And like the worst thing about this though, like getting back to like the reality of how horrible this is that this is happening right before Christmas, and the Senate is going on vacation, on their break. They're fine. Their lives aren't on the line like how a lot of people's are. So let me read to you what I found like on Richard Medhurst. He reposted this. It says Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell announced early Tuesday morning that the Senate will return to Washington on December 29th to respond to a potential veto from President Trump from a mammoth defense bill. McConnell, speaking from the Senate floor, said that he had struck a deal with the Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer from the chamber to return to for a rare post-Christmas session, during which he said they will process a veto override if it's passed by the House. Now that veto is very likely, like how people have been saying in the chat. Again, Nico House reported it on his channel. I'm going to look into how likely that's going to be. But then Chuck Schumer, so we heard for a long time, Charles, how from AOC, like, oh, it's the Republicans, it's the Republicans, it's the Republicans. I don't buy that at all. No. And then here's what Chuck Schumer tweeted out. Because Democrats fought, the emergency COVID relief won't include any of the dangerous GOP corporate immunity provisions to limit workers' rights. This emergency COVID relief won't include provisions that would gratuitously limit the Fed's authority and hamstring the Biden administration. Those are the only things that he said, as if that would make that much of a significant difference. Like, it's already like a shit bill. It's just adding like two more pieces of shit to it if that were to have happened. And then Ilhan Omar goes on to celebrate, and she says, well done, as if this isn't anything to celebrate.
No.
It like, these are supposed to be our saviors, Charles, like the squad. And I don't know if you noticed, but AOC hasn't tweeted at all today, and she voted for this.
I haven't noticed, but I'll be honest with you. To me, in no way, shape, or form are they saviors. To me, they're more like antichrists, because they're posing as saviors, but they're the complete opposite. Okay, with the exception of maybe, Rashida Tlaib. I'll give her credit. She did the right thing there. Okay, and then that's the only member of the squad that stood up and did the right thing. Here's the thing for Chuck Schumer. Let's rewind the clocks back to the beginning of COVID. You want to talk about how you fought for the American people? What was your proposal when Trump, like the man or not, was talking about those stimulus checks? What was Chuck Schumer's proposal? Low interest loans. That was what Chuck Schumer wanted. You want to talk about fighting. Here's the problem. Why are people suing their employers if they're getting sick from COVID-19? Probably because we didn't shut down. Well, why are not a lot of people wanting to shut down? If they did support it before, why do they not want to do it now? You know why? Because the government failed to do anything when they did this to the people who really needed, and they gave large amounts of money to cruise line industry, to the airline industry. They gave it to all these places. Again, Joel Osteen, pastor of a mega church, he got money based on what the original the bill was. What was it? The CARES Act. Joel Osteen. What's the irony of those cruise line industries and Joel Osteen getting all that money? Because the cruise lines were registering in tax havens to dodge paying American taxes. What's the irony of Joel Osteen? He's got a church. Now, full disclosure, I'm Christian, but I don't like the utterly religious. And the thing about churches, they don't pay taxes. They're tax exempt. So what is it with all these people that don't even contribute tax money into our economy making the biggest withdrawals when it came time for bailouts? And the airlines, they got a bailout. Now, they may pay taxes, but what was the first thing they did as soon as they basically ran out of the money that was given to them? Laid off tons of workers anyway. I mean, it's stomach turning. So Chuck Schumer can go pound sand for all I care when he talks about fighting for the American people, because he fights for nothing but his donors, just like the rest of them.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I mean, what do you think of this being like a great unmasking of seeing how, like, they can't use the excuse of "but Trump" anymore, right? Nope. About all this. Like, the reason why they were withholding on all this is like, oh, we can't let Trump look good. Like, that's what Nancy Pelosi was saying. We can't let Trump look good. What will be the excuse now? I think that we're in for 4 years of people realizing that the Democrats are just as bad. But also right now, before the new year, we're seeing that these quote unquote progressives are not really in it to fight for us. No. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's an absolute unmasking, for different reasons. I was never really much of an AOC fan. I felt like she just spouted a lot of stuff out, even when she first got elected. And then a lot of it, to me, she was low hanging fruit for Republicans to have a field day with a lot of times. You know what I mean? She was putting things out there that made her easy targets for them to pitch, like, oh, this is what the left really is, right? That being said, now she's really started to show that the power corrupts, or at least in her case, it certainly has. It's either that or she's afraid of Pelosi, like that little tweet I put out earlier today. I don't know which, but it's a complete unmasking. I've listened to the arguments, and I think Jimmy Dore has laid it out absolutely correct. If this is what you truly want, this is what you want to fight for, this is what you told the American people, they don't have to wait for years and years. We can do it right now. You literally said yourself, you've got to push the Democratic Party to do something. So what would be a better time? If you give Nancy Pelosi your vote to give her the speakership again, she's not going to do anything for you. And if pushing her to do that causes her to try to get you out of office, understand your whole job was not to protect you. Your job is to protect us.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the literal almost definition of what you are as a politician in this country. You are, listen closely now, a public servant. That means we're the boss. We elect you to go to Washington because we do not have direct democracy. We elect you to go to either our state houses, our mayor's office, or to Washington, D.C., to Capitol Hill or the White House, and do things for us. And when you get there and put either yourself, your career, or your donors ahead of us, you're not doing your job. You're not doing your job. And part of doing your job is if you have someone like Pelosi there and the opportunity comes along, even if it results in them throwing millions of dollars at your next election and causing you to leave office, your job was to do what you could for us. That was the whole point of you. And you know who else made that point? AOC herself, because she said, even as a one-term politician, you could get lots of work done. Now's her chance, and she has figured out she had much rather be a politician and get the Cadillac plan health care and make the money that she's making now than go back to being a bartender. So she sold out, period. That's all this is. She sold out.
Yeah, like, we are her bosses. Like, but she's not remembering that. Like, we know with these corporate Democrats that their real bosses are their donors, but what does she have to lose? Like, if the corporate Democrats are attacking AOC, like, we have her back if she's fighting for us. And it's also politics 101. Like, withhold your vote until they offer something that we need. And like, she's supposed to represent the people, right? She's supposed to be this big fighter. Same thing with the rest of the squad. So that's what she's supposed to do. And it boggles my mind how a lot of people who agree with Jimmy, some of them who thought that the best idea was to vote for Joe Biden for quote unquote reduction, like harm reduction. It's the same thing. Like, you withhold your vote from voting for Biden or whoever the Democrat is until they give you the things that you need. Until they give you, like, otherwise, why would they adopt it? Right? It's the same thing here with Nancy Pelosi and withholding her vote.
Here's what I've kind of tried to step back from the situation and look at, and here's what I've come up with as to why you've got the Sam Cedars and the Cenk Uygurs, the Anna Kasparians, the Tim Blacks, and all these people who are just throwing Jimmy Dore under a bus for what he's doing to AOC. And here's why I think Jimmy Dore stands out of that crowd. Jimmy Dore has been very revealing recently that he knows what it's like to have the problem with health care because he nearly died. Okay, he went bankrupt. Okay, I listened to his live stream last night as I was about to get off of work, and I was listening to him. You could tell he has a very emotional hold on the situation. He has a very emotional response to this healthcare issue. And I sent out a tweet kind of addressing that same thing, and even mentioned in a video. There's a difference between all those talking heads. To me, they're looking at it from the scope of, don't bury AOC. She's a progressive, and she might be doing the wrong thing, whatever. But look, hey, you can't bury her. You know why? Because we need to get more progressives elected. And the time to fight for it is when we have more progressives so that we can have someone that could be a progressive that could become Speaker of the House instead of Pelosi, and we've got a hold on the Congress. To me, I think that's what's going through their mind. It's like, if we got to wait another 10 years, we'll just get 50 more progressives elected, and then we'll have real power then, right? Not like a little 15 vote thing that might cost Pelosi the speakership. I think that, to me, that's the only thing that can go through their minds and make any kind of sense at all. If it isn't that, then I don't know. They're just batshit crazy. Okay. The problem is, how many of those people are having to ignore injuries because they can't afford to go see a doctor? Because, see, I visit a chiropractor to kind of help with my neck, but I have a bad neck problem right now, and I've had it for years. If I don't see a chiropractor, eventually I wouldn't go into a chiropractor. And if my wife ever comes on a video, she can attest to this. I had massive headaches for years. It would start from right here in my neck, radiate over my head, and it felt like my eyeballs were the size of golf balls. Okay, and still to this day, I haven't seen a doctor to see what's causing that because I can't afford it. I've mentioned this on my channel many times. I had an accident one time trying to open a plastic box, and the scissors jumped out of the box, stabbed me right through my hand. I had to clean it myself, peroxide, put a Loctite glue on it after I cleaned it to seal it shut, gauze and an ace wrap, and just kept cleaning it. I had to do that because I can't afford to go see doctors to get this kind of thing done because of what they've done to healthcare in this country. And as far as Tim Black, AOC, these people all have health care.
Yeah.
They can afford to see a doctor. They probably get regular checkups. They're not putting aside any injuries. They're not having to do things like this at their home because they can't afford to go see a doctor. So for them to say, wait another 10 years to get some health care change so we can get real power to vote for something, that shows the difference between the shoes they walk a mile in and mine. Because I'm having to ignore all those things and still go work a blue-collar job 40-plus hours a week. They get to have good health care, sit on their ass, and make YouTube content, while I can only find the time to do this in my spare time. So to me, that's a very elitist mentality. They're not in touch with the millions of people across this country that don't have health care and are suffering, that they claim they're speaking for when they started Justice Democrats and ran all these politicians. They're out of touch with the people they claim they're representing, and they need to have a dose of reality. I challenge them. them. You think it's that easy to wait another 10 years for some change? Give up your damn health care and do the things I just described to you, and then tell me that you're not supposed to make a politician fight for that damn vote. I challenge them, seriously.
That's what Jimmy was telling Cenk the other day. I don't know if you saw his rant against Cenk. Because he was like, you're comfy. Same thing with Anna. Same thing with Sam
Yeah.
Cedar. Like no matter who we have as president, they're fine. Like they're out of, like you were saying, they're out of touch with the millions of Americans who are suffering. And then he was like, Jank, why don't you give up your health care? Would you still be saying, let's wait another like 10 years? Like, will you still be saying that? And then he's like, oh no, we gotta fight Pelosi. Oh, but not right now. We can't. Like, it's just not making any sense what he's saying. Like he's telling the squad to fight Pelosi, but he's telling them not to withhold their vote. Like, what? How is that? How are they fighting then? How are they supposed to fight Nancy Pelosi? Like, oh, please, Pelosi, can we please get this on? And she's like, no, we can't. And it's like, oh, okay.
No,
we try. No. We can't get it. She's gonna take away our committee seats. She takes it away anyway.
Did, by the way,
huh?
Which she already did.
She did. Yeah. She gave it to Kathleen Rice, who is a corporatist who was withholding her vote from Nancy Pelosi, but for other reasons, not because she wants Medicare for all. She's a corporatist, and yes, she got the committee seat, and AOC did not. So what is it? What is that? Like, it's weakness. Like, when you show weakness, like AOC, you're not rewarded for that.
No, you're not at all. And to give you examples, I was using that kind of comparison. People attack Trump in his trade war with China, for example, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, it's costing a deficit and it's costing farmers a lot of money because now they're putting tariff taxes on like soybeans and stuff like that, right? And I said, look, but you've got to understand something. You don't get any concession to reverse a lot of those bad trade deals that were negotiated by previous politicians. Why, if China's got the upper hand in this deal, are they then going to turn around and immediately, just because you begged and pleaded, give you a better deal? Like, they're profiteering. You're coming at this from the position of weakness here. You're going to have to try to do something to get a result. They're not just going to hand it to you. Okay, same process. If you come to Nancy Pelosi after you've already done everything she wanted you to do, you're not going to get any concessions from her. The same thing I said when they passed the CARES Act, and Pelosi then wanted to put forward a package that just did all this stuff for gave all this money to the essential workers and blah, blah, blah. Do you remember that when she put that forward after the CARES Act? Yeah. Okay, what's the problem, Pelosi? The Republicans, because that's who they're blaming all this on now, right? All these corporatists got everything they wanted for the donors. All these people, cruise lines, airlines, Wall Street, they were all taken care of already. The donors got their cut. And you didn't negotiate any of that crap into the CARES Act. And the fact you put it out after the fact, this shows that the AOC approach they're pushing for ain't going to work. If she puts it out there, it's the same reason Pelosi put it out there. Smoke and mirrors, kabuki theater. She's going to put it out there so she can show the people, hey, remember that Medicare for all vote you wanted? I'm pushing for it now, but there's no leverage. There's no leverage. You have no advantage to get it to succeed whatsoever. Because when they gave the donors everything and she put that legislation forward months ago, Pelosi now, it went nowhere. And it went nowhere because you had no leverage anymore to get it to go somewhere. But here's the interesting part. She pushed for that, back in July? Mm-hmm. Well, we just had a stimulus, right? Where did it go, Pelosi? You wanted that after you lost your leverage last time, and guess what? COVID continued on. Now you had to get something passed again. Did you get any of those provisions in this round? No. What did you originally support from the House Problem Solvers Caucus? A bill that included no checks. So it took care of nothing. So all those examples go to show you this Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, all these other people kick the can down the road and vote on it at a later time after you've bent the knee to Pelosi. If she pushes for it, it will go nowhere. And you know what it'll be? It'll be nothing for these people to keep sheepdogging with, because they're going to say, oh, we got to have more progressives elected. We got to get all these people into office. See, we can't get the job done. But the problem is now they got the opportunity to get the job done. They just don't want to do it. And again, the odds of it passing the Senate are kind of bleak, okay? Unless the Democrats take over in the Senate. But even then, you're still not probably going to have all these Democrats vote for it. But here's the point. Expose them. Expose them.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's like Jimmy says, let them see who doesn't want to give health care to people in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Let the people see it.
It's going to look horrible in history. And even if it goes far enough in which Biden vetoes it, he's going to go down in history as the guy who denied people health care during a pandemic.
Absolutely.
And but Charles, I thought Nancy Pelosi was feeding us. Didn't she tell Wolf Blitzer that? She's feeding us. That was absolutely disgusting.
She's the biggest Marie Antoinette that I've seen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Incarnate.
She's talking about we're feeding them. What are you feeding them, Nancy? Some of that luxurious ice cream that you got? I don't know if you saw a tweet that I put out on my Twitter based on something that Jimmy brought up last night on his show. But he was talking, or actually, matter of fact, this was a tweet that he put out, something along the lines of what they're getting for all their stuff. He said, no health care, no UBI, $600 for you, $5 trillion for the donors, etc. Right? I retweeted it, and this is what I said. Popsicles for you, luxurious ice cream for them. Death and injury at war for you, DOD profiteering for them. No health care for you, Cadillac plans for them. $600 for you, massive donations for millionaires and billionaires for them. Hashtag force the vote. Because that's what she's doing. While she's talking about feeding the country, she's also on CNN or wherever it was doing interviews showing us her, expensive ass freezer with all that, expensive ice cream inside of it.
And you saw...
What are you feeding them? Some of that?
It just has like children blood in that ice cream. But you saw like the excuse that people like David Sirota was like flip-flopping on initially, and Cenk Uygur keeps gaslighting about, like they're like, oh, we risk having Kevin McCarthy. That's what freaking Sam Cedar was saying too, that we're gonna risk Kevin McCarthy, even though Jimmy Dore had Ryan Grimm on, and then he also read from what was it? This research institute. I don't remember which one it was. Congressional Research Institute. Like that's not true. They're just going to bring it back to the floor for a caucus, and they're going to repeat the process again. And so whoever we have, and they have majority of Democrats, right? So whoever we got, it's just like, just do the same thing. We won't vote for you until you put Medicare for all up for a vote. Just keep doing it over and over again until you have somebody that does. That's the whole point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, the only way the Republicans going to win if there's enough Democrats holding out and a freaking Republican agrees to put it up for a vote. You know why? Because there's about 70% of Republicans who support it. That's the only way Kevin McCarthy stands a chance, is if he were to be the one to come around and tell AOC and all these people, you know what? Hey, I'll put it up for a vote. That'd be the only way, is if there was enough votes to add to the Republican votes to elect him. That's going to be the only way. It's going to be the only way it could be a Republican. But I got news for you. Even if their argument, which is complete BS, as you just laid it out, and as Jimmy's been laying it out, it's going to keep going back. And it's more than likely it would be a Democrat who would put it forward, let's be honest. Okay? And they'd be the one that would win the speakership, and it wouldn't be Pelosi. But even if it was Kevin McCarthy, okay? Even if it was like Dan Crenshaw, pick your Republican. I don't care. Okay? Pick them. How are you getting something worse at the end of the day than Nancy Pelosi? Because I got news for you. They're not a president. Sure, they're going to kind of decide what comes up for a vote. But Pelosi's already going to block Medicare for all unless you force her to put it up for a vote. And she's going to do nothing but take care of the same wealthy donors that the Republicans are taking care of. Again, what happened to that little stimulus thing she wanted after the CARES Act that just disappeared in this last round? She's not going to do anything for the people anyways. She's a sellout. She's a hack. She's way past her expiration date, and it's time for her to go. Okay, period. So even if you got a Republican, guess what? Just because a Republican got elected Speaker of the House didn't give them a majority in the House. Anything they put up for a vote that was quote unquote bad, you could still vote down. You still got the majority as the Democrats, right? So again, even following their argument, I fail to see how it's going to be that detrimental. I really don't. To me, you're just going from like Bud Light to Bud Heavy. You're going from Republican Light to Republican Heavy, but the Democrats still have the majority. Anything put forward that doesn't go along with what the Democrats want, they can slap down with a vote anyway.